I was 62 the day my son told me I was becoming a burden. He didn't mean for me to hear it. But thin apartment walls have a way of revealing things people wish they hadn't said. I had just come back from the grocery store.
2 small bags.
Nothing heavy. I stopped in the hallway when I heard Daniel's voice inside the kitchen. He was talking to his wife. "I can't keep doing this," he said quietly. "Mom lives 5 minutes away and somehow still needs help with everything." There was a pause. Then his wife answered, "Maybe it's time she moved somewhere smaller. Somewhere simpler." I stood there holding the grocery bags, listening, feeling something heavy settle in my chest. For 40 years, I had been the person people depended on. When Daniel was sick, I stayed awake all night beside his bed. When my husband died, I worked 2 jobs to keep our house. When Daniel went to college, I sold my car to help pay the tuition.
And now,
I was a problem to solve. I quietly stepped back from the door, walked down the stairs, and went home. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was angry, but because something inside me had shifted. For the first time in my life, I realized no one was coming to rescue me. If I wanted my life to be different, I would have to change it myself. The next morning, I opened the old wooden box under my bed. Inside were dozens of small notebooks, recipes,
hundreds of them.
Every meal I had cooked over the years, family favorites, things Daniel used to ask for when he was little. I flipped through the pages slowly. Chicken stew, apple pie, Sunday roast. Each recipe had notes in the margins. Little adjustments. Add more garlic. Daniel likes extra cinnamon. Cook 15 minutes longer. Suddenly, a strange thought crossed my mind. What if these recipes were worth something? The idea sounded ridiculous, but the thought refused to leave. That afternoon, I asked my neighbor for help. Her granddaughter Emma was 19 and studying design. When she arrived, she looked curious. "You want to help with the internet?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I want to sell something." Emma smiled politely. "What kind of product?" I held up the old notebook. "My recipes." She blinked. "You mean like a cookbook?" "Something like that." Emma flipped through the pages. Her smile slowly faded. Then she looked up again. "These are actually really good." "You think so?" "Yes." She turned another page. "You wrote stories next to some of them." "I did." "Yes." I leaned closer. She was right. Small memories beside the recipes. This pie was the first thing Daniel baked by himself. My husband burned this soup 3 times before getting it right. Emma looked excited now. "You know what this is?" "What?" "This is more than recipes. It's a story." 3 weeks later, we launched a small website. Nothing fancy, just a simple page. The title read, "Grandma's Table, Recipes with Memories." I expected maybe 1 or 2 orders, maybe from friends. Instead, something strange happened. A food blogger discovered the site. She wrote a short article. An older woman shares 40 years of family recipes online. The story spread faster than I expected. Within days, orders started arriving. People didn't just buy the recipes. They wrote messages. One woman said, "My grandmother passed away last year. Reading your stories feels like sitting in her kitchen again." Another wrote, "My daughter and I cooked your stew together tonight. It reminded me of childhood." Emma showed me the numbers one evening. "You've sold 4,000 copies." I stared at the screen. 4,000. Yes. And it's only been 2 weeks. For the first time in years, I felt useful again. But the real moment came 2 months later.
Daniel called me.
His voice sounded stressed. "Mom, can I come by?" "Of course." He arrived 20 minutes later, looking exhausted. He sat at the kitchen table and sighed. "My company is cutting staff," he said. "They might close our department." I poured him tea. "You'll figure it out." He rubbed his forehead. "I hope so." Then his eyes moved around the kitchen. Stacks of envelopes. Printed orders. Emma working quietly at the laptop. "What's going on here?" he asked. "Oh," I said. "Just work." He frowned. "What kind of work?" Emma turned the laptop toward him. Daniel stared at the screen. Then he leaned closer. "You sold how many?" "Almost 12,000 copies now," Emma said. Daniel blinked slowly. "And people pay for this?" "Yes."
He looked at me.
"You built a business?" I shrugged. "I suppose." Daniel leaned back in his chair.
Silent.
Then he laughed softly. "Mom, I thought you needed help using the internet." "I did," I said. "But I learned." He looked at the shelves behind me, where the old notebooks once sat, now replaced by new printed books. Boxes ready to ship. "You did all this?" "Yes." For the first time in years, my son looked at me with something different in his eyes. Respect. A week later, he called again. "Mom," he said, "do you need help expanding the business?" I smiled, because life has a strange sense of humor. Sometimes the person who once believed you were becoming a burden ends up asking if they can work beside you. And the most surprising part? This story was only beginning, because 3 months later, an email arrived that would change everything again. The email arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. I almost didn't open it. Emma had just made coffee, and we were packing the morning's orders at the kitchen table. The room smelled like paper, printer ink, and cinnamon from the apple muffins cooling on the counter. My laptop made a soft ping. "Another order?" Emma asked. "Probably," I said. But when I opened the message, I realized it wasn't an order. It was from a publishing company. A real one. For a moment, I thought it must be a mistake. The email said they had discovered Grandma's table through the article that had been circulating online. They liked the way the recipes were written, but even more than that, they loved the stories. They wanted to talk about turning it into a full book. A real book. The kind you see in bookstores. I stared at the screen. Emma leaned over my shoulder. "What is it?" I moved the laptop slightly so she could read. She covered her mouth with both hands. "Oh my God," she whispered. I sat back in my chair. "I think they wrote to the wrong person." Emma laughed. "No, they didn't." "Yes, they did. I'm just a woman who wrote recipes in a notebook." "No," Emma said, pointing at the screen. "You're the woman who sold 12,000 copies of them." I looked at the numbers again. 12,000. It still felt unreal. Emma grabbed her phone. "You have to answer them." I don't even know what to say. "Say yes to the meeting." I hesitated, but she was right.
So I wrote back.
Short and simple. "Thank you for your message. I would be happy to talk." The meeting was scheduled for Thursday. 2 days. That gave me exactly 48 hours to panic. Daniel came over that evening. He had been visiting more often since discovering the website. At first, he asked questions out of curiosity. Now he asked them like a man studying something carefully. "So," he said, sitting at the kitchen table, "what happened today?" Emma answered before I could. "Mom got contacted by a publisher." Daniel looked up. "A publisher?" "Yes." He frowned. "Like a real one?" "Yes." Emma turned the laptop toward him. Daniel read the email.
Once. Twice.
Then he leaned back slowly.
Wow.
That was all he said at first. Then he asked the question I had been asking myself all afternoon. What do they want exactly? "They want to turn the recipes into a real book," Emma said. Daniel looked at me. "How do you feel about that?" I thought for a moment. Terrified. Emma laughed. Daniel smiled a little. That's usually a good sign. The next 2 days felt strange. I reread the recipes, the stories beside them, small memories I had written without thinking much about them at the time. But now I realized something. The stories weren't really about food. They were about life, about family dinners, arguments, birthdays, quiet mornings, little moments people forget too easily. Thursday morning arrived faster than expected. The meeting was on video. Daniel insisted on sitting beside me. "You might need someone to translate the business language," he said. Emma sat on the other side with a notebook. The call started. Two editors appeared on the screen. They looked friendly, curious. One of them smiled immediately. "We're so glad to meet you."
Thank you, I said.
They asked questions about the recipes, about my life, about where the stories came from. At one point, one of the editors held up a printed page. "I want to read something," she said. It was a paragraph I had written beside a soup recipe. She read it slowly. This soup was the only thing my husband could cook when I was sick. He never followed the recipe exactly. Somehow it tasted better every time. She looked up. "That sentence right there," she said. "That's why people love this." I didn't know what to say. The conversation lasted nearly an hour. When it ended, Daniel closed the laptop. Emma looked at me.
Well,
"Well, what? What do you think?" I stared at the kitchen table, at the same place where the business had started just a few months earlier. I think my life just became very strange. Daniel laughed quietly. "You have no idea." That evening, something else happened. Something I didn't expect. Daniel stayed after Emma left. He helped pack the last orders. Then he sat down across from me. "Mom," he said. "Yes, I've been thinking. That's usually dangerous." He smiled. "I'm serious." He paused for a moment. Then he said something that surprised me. "I think you're sitting on something much bigger than a cookbook." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" He gestured toward the boxes. "The recipes. The stories. The website." "Yes, this isn't just food content." "What is it then?" Daniel leaned forward. "It's comfort." I didn't understand at first, but he continued. "People aren't buying recipes. They're buying the feeling of sitting at someone's kitchen table again." I thought about the messages people had been sending, the ones about grandmothers, childhood, family. Maybe he was right. Daniel leaned back in his chair. "You know what the funny part is?" "What?" "I spent 15 years studying marketing. And you figured out something better without even trying." "What's that?" "People don't just want products. They want connection." The kitchen grew quiet for a moment. Then Daniel said something else. Something that felt important. "Mom, I want to help grow this." I looked at him carefully. "You mean the website?"
No. He shook his head.
"I mean the whole thing." "What whole thing?" Daniel smiled slightly. "The brand." I had never thought about it that way before. But looking around the kitchen, at the stacks of books, the envelopes, the growing number of orders, maybe this really was becoming something bigger. And neither of us realized yet how big it was about to get. Because the next morning, the publisher sent another message. And this time, it included numbers that made Daniel nearly drop his coffee. The email arrived the next morning. Daniel was already sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open when I walked in. Emma had just brewed coffee, and the smell filled the room the way it always did in the mornings. For a moment, everything felt normal, quiet, simple. Then Daniel looked up at me.
Slowly.
"You should sit down," he said. I frowned. That's never a good sentence. He turned the laptop toward me. "It's from the publisher." I adjusted my glasses and began reading. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. There were numbers, lots of them, contracts, royalty percentages, projected print runs. Then my eyes stopped on one particular line. Advance payment. I blinked. "Read it again."
And again.
"Daniel," I said quietly. "Yes. Is that number correct?" He nodded slowly. "That's what it says." I sat down. Hard. Emma leaned closer to the screen. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. The publisher wasn't offering to simply print a book. They were offering a major deal. A full cookbook. Stories included. National distribution. Bookstores. Online retailers. Interviews. The advance alone was more money than I had made in several years working part-time. For a moment, the kitchen was completely silent. Then Emma spoke first. "This is huge." Daniel nodded. "Bigger than huge." I looked from one of them to the other. "I think they made a mistake." Daniel laughed softly.
No.
I'm serious. They meant to email someone else. No, he said again. They meant you. I leaned back in my chair. The room felt strangely distant. Just a few months earlier, I had been standing outside my son's apartment hearing him talk about me like I was a problem. And now, publishers were offering contracts. Life moves in strange directions sometimes. Emma finally broke the silence. So, what do we do? Daniel looked at me. You decide. I stared at the laptop again. Then I closed it. I need a walk. The afternoon air was cool. Leaves moved slowly across the sidewalk as I walked down the familiar street. I passed the small grocery store where I had bought food for decades. The bakery where Daniel used to beg for cinnamon rolls when he was little. Memories followed me with every step. But something else followed too. A question. What did I actually want? By the time I returned home, Daniel and Emma were still at the table, waiting. I sat down. I'll sign it. Emma clapped immediately. Daniel smiled, but his smile faded after a moment. What? I asked. He leaned forward. There's something else we should talk about. That sounds serious. It is. He opened his laptop again and began typing. Numbers appeared on the screen. Graphs. Sales charts. Traffic from the website. Mom, he said, your recipes have already sold nearly 20,000 copies. I know, but look at this. He pointed to another chart. This is the interesting part. I leaned closer. People are spending time reading the stories. How do you know that? Website analytics. Emma nodded. He's right. Daniel continued. Some people stay on the site for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Reading. Yes. He tapped the screen again. That means something. What? Daniel smiled slightly. You're not just selling recipes. You're telling stories people want to hear. The words hung in the air. Stories. Suddenly something clicked inside my mind. I stood up and walked to the bedroom. A moment later, I returned carrying another old box. Emma looked curious. What's that? More notebooks. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Recipes.
No.
I placed the box on the table and opened it. Inside were journals. Years of them. Small memories. Family stories. Moments from my life I had written down over decades. Emma picked one up carefully. You never told us about these. I forgot they were here. Daniel flipped through a few pages. Then he looked up slowly. Mom? Yes, these are incredible. I laughed. They're just little stories. No, he said. There's something much bigger. Emma looked at him. What are you thinking? Daniel leaned back in his chair. Then he said something that made the room go quiet again. I think this could become a series. A series? I asked. Yes. Cookbooks.
No.
He shook his head. Life stories. I looked at the old journals. All those years. All those memories. I had written them down simply because I didn't want to forget them.
But now,
maybe they could mean something to someone else too. Emma smiled softly. You know what the best part is? What? You didn't start this business to become famous.
no.
You started it because someone made you feel like you didn't matter anymore. Daniel looked down at the table for a moment. Then he said quietly, I'm really sorry about that. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I poured 3 cups of tea, placed one in front of him, one in front of Emma. Then I sat down again. Life doesn't always move forward the way we expect, I said. Daniel nodded slowly. But sometimes, I continued, it moves exactly the way it needs to. That night we stayed up late, planning,
Talking.
dreaming about what the future might look like. None of us realized something important yet. The publisher's offer was only the beginning, because 3 weeks later, when the first interview request arrived, a television producer would make a phone call, and that phone call would change everything again. 3 weeks passed faster than any 3 weeks I could remember. The contract with the publisher was signed. Emma helped me organize the recipes and stories into chapters. Daniel turned the website into something much bigger than the little page we had started with. Orders kept arriving. Boxes filled the dining room. The kitchen table had become a full-time office. Sometimes I would stand in the doorway and look at everything in disbelief. Just a few months earlier, that same table had been empty most days. Quiet, lonely. Now it was the center of something alive. One afternoon, Emma burst into the room holding her phone. "You're not going to believe this." Daniel looked up from his laptop. "That sentence is getting dangerous around here." Emma laughed. "Seriously, listen." She turned the phone toward us. It was an email. Another one. But this one came from a television producer. They had seen the article about the website, then the news about the book deal, and they wanted to invite me onto a morning show to talk about the story. I stared at the screen.
No.
Emma blinked.
No.
No television. Daniel looked amused. "Why not?" "Because I'm not the kind of person who goes on television." Emma grinned. "You're also not the kind of person who builds an online business at 62. Daniel added quietly, "Or signs a publishing deal." I folded my arms. "That doesn't mean I want to sit under bright lights answering questions." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "Mom." "Yes. Think about what your story actually is." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" He gestured toward the boxes stacked in the corner. "You started something new when most people thought your life was slowing down." "That wasn't the plan." "Maybe not," he said. "But that's the message people are hearing." Emma nodded. "Women write to you every day saying your story inspired them." That part was true. Messages arrived constantly. Women in their 50s, 60s, even 70s. Some said they had started writing. Others had begun small businesses. One woman wrote, "I thought my best years were behind me. Your story made me realize maybe they're not." Daniel looked at me again. "You're not just selling recipes anymore. You're giving people permission to start again." I thought about that for a moment. Then I sighed.
Fine.
Emma clapped again. Daniel laughed. "But you're both coming with me." 2 weeks later, we were standing in a television studio. Bright lights, cameras, people rushing everywhere. I had never felt more out of place in my life. A young assistant clipped a microphone to my shirt. "Just relax," she said. Daniel whispered beside me. "She's telling that to the wrong person." The host walked over. She smiled warmly. "We're so happy you're here." "Thank you," I said. A few minutes later, the show began. The host introduced the story. A woman who turned her old family recipes into a business later in life. She asked simple questions at first. How the website started, where the recipes came from, why the stories mattered. I answered as honestly as I could. But then she asked something different. "What made you decide to start something new at 62? For a moment, I hesitated. Then I told the truth. "My son once said something that made me realize something important." Daniel shifted slightly in his seat. I continued. "He didn't mean to hurt me, but hearing it made me understand something." "What was that?" the host asked. "That nobody gets to decide when your life stops growing." The studio became very quiet. Even the cameras seemed still. I added softly, "Sometimes the moment people think you're slowing down is exactly the moment you should start something new." When the interview ended, the host shook my hand. "That was beautiful," she said. Backstage, Daniel hugged me. "You were incredible." Emma smiled. "You're going to get a lot more messages now." She was right. Within hours, the website traffic exploded. Thousands of new visitors. Orders flooding in faster than we could pack them. But the messages were what mattered most. People writing from everywhere, sharing their own stories, their own dreams they thought were too late. That evening we sat on the porch together. The sun was setting slowly behind the trees. Daniel looked at the busy house behind us. Printers humming, boxes stacked by the door, employees laughing inside as they worked. "You know something?" he said. "What?" "A year ago, I thought success belonged to younger people. And now, he smiled. Now I think it belongs to the people who refuse to stop trying. I leaned back in the chair, feeling the cool evening air. Life had taken a path I never expected, but maybe that was the point, because sometimes the best chapters of your life are the ones you start writing much later than everyone else expects.